Yeah. So, I mean, we can talk about some of the different awards, but I mean, there's courage and service. Um, that's usually, an act of bravery. For example, last year, Carly Travis, young officer, like you said, first on the job, and we still keep in touch with her, and she's still struggling mentally.
Blue Grit listeners, we are back this week. We've got a great episode with a couple of guests that we have been trying for several months to get on. They jet set around, stay busy, so it's taken a bit to figure this out. I'm your co-host, Clint McNear, along with
Tyler Owen.
What's up, T.O.?
Man, what's going on? First, let's kick this off. Your, I don't want to say alma mater, but your retired agency, our thoughts and prayers are with Garland today. Just got news of an officer that was injured this morning, shot multiple times, I understand, and then the suspect or dirtbag or whatever we choose to call him continued his acts of violence against law enforcement. So our thoughts and prayers with Garland.
Yeah, officer is going to recover, and
Good.
Bad guy won't do anything bad ever again.
I take the subliminal message. But no, everything's going good, man. We're just blowing and going and getting geared up for our conference this next week, which when this episode releases, we have just surpassed the second year of our motorcycle rodeo there in Round Rock in conjunction with Round Rock Police Association, Round Rock Police, and then also the Round Rock Express. And you and your team are also going to be in Galveston for the annual Mardi Gras, which I think that services what, Clint, over is it 1 million people that jump onto the island, and law enforcement have to deal with that craziness for the week or 2 weeks or however long Galveston's Mardi Gras is. So you guys be just getting done with that as well.
Yeah, it's the second largest Mardi Gras in the country, or third largest Mardi Gras in the country, and literally takes agencies from all over the Golden Triangle and Houston area, all over. We'll be down supporting them for 3 days, and
awesome
as they navigate the craziness.
Yep. Well, man, who we got on today?
So I will let them introduce themselves, but they are the founders of the National Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, Megan and Adam. And I will let you guys intro yourselves to our crew.
Well, thank you guys for having us on, and we're very excited to talk about the Hall of Fame and kind of spread the word, because I think that's the biggest thing is people don't know that we exist. And something like us should exist for law enforcement officers. It does for sports players, musicians. So why don't we have something for the men and women that risk their life every day for us? So we're just out here trying to support law enforcement. And we've gone from we'll get into it, but a lunch to now we're down from Ohio here in Texas. And we are so grateful and welcomed with open arms from our Texas family. So.
Awesome. Tell the listeners your names, if you don't mind, full names, and both from Ohio. Is that correct?
Yep. Megan Stockburger.
And Adam Davenport. We actually went to high school together. I was 1 year above her at our small little Catholic school in Oregon, Ohio. And who would have ever thought that we'd be doing this together?
24
years ago. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
Started out small so Adam and I was an event planner by trade. I wanted to be able to stay home with my kids and raise them, but I also wanted to work. So I started my own event planning business and explained what working.
So I started off running the Entrepreneurial and Business Excellence Hall of Fame, which is the regional program honoring entrepreneurs and small business owners around Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. And I took that over in 2010. And when I took it over, I could do the fundraising and things like that, but I had no idea how to actually run an event. And Megan had just started it probably a couple months beforehand. I called her up and said, "You got to come help me. I have no idea what I'm doing." So we've been running that together since this will be our 18th or 19th year doing that.
Wow.
And then 2016.
So in 2016, my dad is a retired law enforcement officer from Toledo, Ohio, where we're from. And he attended the event and he said to me, "Why aren't you doing this for law enforcement?" And kind of put us on the spot. And I'm like, "I don't know, Dad. Let me look into it. Someone's got to be doing it, right?" We started looking into it and realized that no one was doing anything like that. And so we're like, okay, let's try it out. Well, it was just a luncheon, just Ohio officers, and the first year was maybe 60 people, but it really gain traction. And then we had some people attend that year that were like, wait a minute, it should be bigger than it is. And so we decided to go national. And then, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it, COVID hit, but then also law enforcement wasn't exactly appreciated, liked during that time. So we couldn't hold it for 2 years. We were getting death threats because we supported law enforcement. And that was just in Ohio, starting at small and local at that time. But then we decided, hey, we don't care, we're not standing down. Like, we're going to support who we want to support and deal with the backlash. And so then we realized that to better serve the law enforcement community, we needed to go to a nonprofit status, and we needed to move out of Ohio locally, where we've done other events and we're out of our comfort zone down here. But it honestly was a fantastic move because of the support and the welcoming and the pro law enforcement vibe that you get down here. It's not found everywhere, and making us feel like we're welcome helps us serve the law enforcement community. So it's gone from the phase of luncheon in Ohio to national to nonprofit to, after we grow, the next phase will be our mental health phase. And what we want to do with that is just say an officer struggles, with his wife with something, because as a daughter of a law enforcement officer, I talk to Adam about this all the time. My dad and I went to therapy. We struggled. He treated me like I was like a bad kid on the street, because it's hard to separate that, right? So that's where my passion lies, and where we want to help is someone calls us and says, we're struggling in our marriage right now. We can't afford to go to a retreat. You don't want to go to your department therapy. We all know how that goes and the stigma associated. And then, certain people get reputations, and we want to take that out of it. So they'll be able to call us, say, I need this. And we're building our network right now for when we're able to do this, and say, you need to go here for a retreat and we'll pay for it. So it's not only honoring the law enforcement officers that we want to do, but we want to help them and know that they're supported, because that's the whole point of the Hall of Fame.
Is that this? So your father was an law enforcement officer, Megan. Who else was in your family that kind of sparked the interest of creating this?
Well, I mean, I do have I have a couple law enforcement families, but honestly, I want to, and now Adam just had a baby 4 months ago. I have 4 kids, right? I want to leave a legacy for them that they can build and know that it's okay to go against the norm, if that makes sense, because unfortunately supporting law enforcement is going against the norm. I see it shifting. We talk about this almost daily, but it starts at the top, right? In your departments, you have to have leadership that has your back, and then you need to feel supported by your community. So the whole thing is just knowing that even though it's hard to do what we're doing, you can do it anyways. And if I'm setting that goal for my kids, I'm setting it for everyone.
Well, the crazy thing for me is I have no law enforcement in my family at all, but I brought the business background and how to run an event, and we modeled our National Law Enforcement Officer Hall of Fame after our business event. We've just scaled up since then. And then
it's a learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's different when you're honoring entrepreneurs to law enforcement, So we're adjusting every time we go. We're like, we don't care about this. For business owners want this. You know what I mean? But it's fun to have the different events and learn from every year. We just keep learning and growing.
And we learn we learn every year, but at the same time, it's like many law enforcement officers, they're not doing it for the recognition. You guys are very, very, very humble. But stories still have to be told. People need to know that the everyday things that you guys deal with is something that a civilian like me, I look like, why would you go into something that causes that much stress and anxiety and problems in your work-life balance, but you guys are called to do it. And it's just, every time we hear our stories and get to read those stories that are nominated, we just look at each other and be like, we're all winners.
Well, yeah, that's the problem too. You're like, oh, luckily we are the judges.
Yes.
Past winners that are law enforcement. We have nothing to do with it, but it's like when you read them, how do you say, oh no, that one's not good enough? You know what I mean? Like they all deserve it.
Go ahead.
And so you started out with about 60 attendees. How many years ago was that?
2017 was our first year. Then so we did 17, 18, national in 19, took off 2020 and 2021 because they were like, well, you know, you should do it via Zoom and stuff like that. And we're like, no, we would rather take a couple years off than.
The point is to have an honor and an experience, not a
Yeah.
Zoom award ceremony. Like, I mean, I could hand anybody an award, but
Mhm.
you want that camaraderie and that, you know, networking. And, you know,
Mhm.
this year we added a training. So there'll be a training through 4 Science from 8 to noon for officers. That's very low price for them. And it's department credited, but it's also gives them more, you know, something out of the event. So that's why we never wanted to do it virtually.
Mhm.
And this year, Bertra is bringing a simulator to the training as well for officers. So they'll be able to go, and it's kind of like a Oculus type of situation, but you can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to make this, you know, more family oriented, get more, you know, things that bring all of us together. But every year we just keep adding a little more and seeing what we're doing. So this year is the training. And
Well, we just found out last week that actually the college that both of us went to, they're bringing 16 of their CJ students and 2 professors, flying them down from Ohio,
Wow.
come to our event. And we didn't think of that. We're like, because we would have never thought to bring college students to come. But they're like, when we met with them, they said, we want to bring them and have them have experiences not in the classroom. Well, of course, this is the way to do it. Meet with cops from all over the country and people that have had significant impact for the entire industry. They would never get a chance to meet other than through us.
So
Maybe in the future, yes, but. Mhm.
Well, but even on top of that, I mean, me and Clint both have experienced, you know, situations where you go through a critical incident and then you share those type of impactful stories. And I think it's so crucial that the younger generation of law enforcement, the new generation, the generation that we don't even know about, the young, you know, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid that needs to understand the importance of really what these law enforcement officers go through day in, day out. And you would be shocked. I myself was even probably guilty of this, is that understanding the real dangers behind what law enforcement's facing, and that every single day is unknown. And so to bring in those new CJ students and to get a full understanding of really what these officers do day in, day out, man, that's remarkable. That's awesome.
And now we are like, well, we're going to plan this across the country to universities, different things, bring these students together with some of our alum, you know, and our Hall of Fame members in the future. But it's really a great moment for us. And, you know, they want to partner and they say, like, we want to, you know, come and be ambassadors and work your registration table. Like, that's how interested. And so it just keeps getting back. The connections that you make, you know, we have one winner, Tom Smith, who does Gold Show podcast. He was our Lifetime Achievement winner. He's completely blown up since being inducted, which is fantastic. He's retired, but now he's helping different, you know, cold cases. He was just on Antique Grace. You know, he didn't have a clue a year ago about us or what he was going to do in retirement, and now he's living his best life. You know, that's what this is about.
Well, I think y'all sharing stories is important. That's part of why we started this podcast. And to your point about the threats against you guys and the downturn and the lack of respect for law enforcement lost the messaging war. We never even got into the war to begin with, so we lost it without participating in our podcast and the events that you guys do. I think that puts us back in the messaging game, because people need to hear these important stories. They need to hear y'all's story. They need to hear the people that you honor and recognize. I think that's a huge part of it. So 60 attendees just a few years ago. This last year I was at the event and it was quite large. About how many attendees there?
There was about 200 last year.
Yeah.
We're already surpassed that number if all of our sponsors bring their tickets. And we didn't get that number till a week before last year. We're already surpassed that. Our goal would be 500 at
Nice.
this point in time.
Our goal is to have the convention center across the street be where we hold it, and then we can stay here at the hotel. That's the goal, but we're getting there. I mean, look at, like, I never thought we could say that, 7 weeks before we're at the number we were last year. You know what I mean? That's a big deal.
Can y'all give a breakdown of kind of how the what the awards are, as far as, the average patrol officer is not really going to understand until you guys kind of break it down of what awards are actually given?
Yes. So, I mean, we can talk about some of the different awards, but I mean, there's courage and service. That's usually, an act of bravery. For example, last year, Carly Travis, young officer, like you said, first on the job, and we still keep in touch with her, and she's still struggling mentally after her attack with the hammer from a guy. She didn't have to stand a chance. He just came out of nowhere, and that's her coming in last year. I don't know if you remember, Clint. She was terrified to come up and speak, but she said, "I need to do this, so that you can come back from things."
Yeah.
And she went and told her story and told where she's going, and now we still keep in touch with her. Like, we checked this summer, we went and visited with her, and she's like, my own department doesn't check on me.
Wow.
Which made me sick to my stomach, but I'm like, this is why we're doing it. This is why we have to keep doing this, because it means a lot to the people we're doing it for. And so that's an example of courage and service. Like I mentioned, Tom Smith Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, he won that because Hall of Fame to me should be people that do things on and off the job. I know this is a story that I tell often, but it's the best way to explain what these awards mean to me. And that's, for example, my dad, when I was younger, he would go, Toledo wasn't the, greatest. It wasn't very safe, but he would take us to homes where he had stopped for a domestic or something like that, where the kids are not living the way they should. They don't have food or anything. And he would bring my sister and I to give them food for Christmas or holidays, and we'd wrap presents, and he'd take us. And it was a lesson for us, a lesson for them. But no one ever knew that my dad was doing that on the department. It's not like he made a ton of money either. He just did that. So those are the stories that we want to encompass. It's not just the courage and service where you're after shot on the job. It's everything. It's, hey, I want to be out in my community. I'm not afraid to be vocal if I don't agree with something. Those are the type of awards that it's just well-rounded. Honestly, you could put any category on a lot of them, but because they all mean the same to us.
Well, we have a life-saving award this year out of Springboro, Ohio. We have, last year was our first canine award. This year is another canine award, Canine Iris, out of FBI Newark Division, which I just had to pull it up. She's like one of 10. Iris, the FBI's electronics detection canine. Like one of 10 of them, like we believe, in the nation right now.
Yeah.
I think she's like a black lab, and she's actually coming.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like, there's that.
The Never
Forgotten award is someone who's best.
And not necessarily, it doesn't need to be they were injured on the job and passed that way. Like we had last year, he started a department in Utah, not last year, but 2 years ago, Rivershun, Utah, was part of starting a department there, and he passed away from cancer. He was our Never Forgotten award, because that's the other thing. You do this job, I mean, that can go for any job. You do this job and then you get to retire or get close to it, and then something happens health-wise. So it was important still to recognize people that just, it doesn't need to be the dramatic story that you want to hear on the news, if that makes some sense. Not saying that's any less important, but we encourage those nominations to come in with the people that don't get their stories heard as much.
And we've actually evolved as well. It's like, because we originally started as strictly law enforcement officers. But like last year with Kyle Reyes from Blue Lives Matter and Silent Partner Marketing and Law Enforcement Today, who's our Civilian Impact Award. And Clint had a hand in this year's Civilian Impact Award. Rick Smith from, is it Axon or Axon?
Founder of Axon.
Axon. I mean, we talked to him, and he founded the taser. I mean, people don't understand how much this guy is.
Well, we had that call, but the thing is, the reason you nominated him, and I'll say this and you can back me up, is because of his down to earth and his willingness to help law enforcement. That's what's it like. I still think we need to honor these civilians too, because like the contributions And if you have a voice on your side,
Use it.
yeah.
Well, he is the Elon Musk of police technology. He has his hand in every piece of technology in law enforcement. And if technology is going to save our lives and save the people's lives that we have to interact with, and he's so, as you guys saw, he's passionate about it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and really no law enforcement background at all, but he's now pretty much considered like the Elon Musk of police technology. And if the guy can invent something to protect those that I work with, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so fun to honor people like him and everyone else. Like this year, we have 10 honorees, I think, from 8 states, including this year, we will have inducted 44 honorees, I believe, from 17 states. We already have, I mean, I think this year we had, it was 73 nominees from 39 states.
Wow.
And so it's hard to, like we said, we're glad we're not the judges, because we fall in love with every single nominee, but we can't make that distinction. And our judges panel don't announce who they are.
All officers.
They're officers, so they know what to kind of look for. I don't know.
I don't know what to look for.
You know.
And then we talk about kind of our board sometimes. Like we have our dad on the board, for example. But that's just because one's an accountant, one's a retired law enforcement officer. So my dad, we made him, he's the investigative arm for when we get our nominees, and he goes and makes sure vets them for us. And then Larry, his dad is an accountant. We're just family, and the whole law enforcement is family. But then Tony Garland, Tony Garland. He's on our board now, and it's like Scott Hughes from Cincinnati, Hamilton Police Department. He's the chief there. He's been so instrumental with our growth as well, and he handles like the training portion because he goes around the country doing them. We don't pretend to know what you guys do or go through. I can speak as a daughter and what I saw, what I went through, and what my dad shared. But that's why we surround ourselves with the people that do know, and just let us facilitate it. But we take our lead from you guys.
Well, you've got a great one with Tony Godwin. And for all of our watchers and listeners, so you have a board of directors, but then for selecting the awards, it's a separate panel composed of law enforcement that is not necessarily the board, and you guys aren't involved.
They're past winners. We can share that they're past winners, all law enforcement. That it's changed kind of like different people can do it from past winning, but we think that having the past winners as officers, we don't have civilians do it. It's the officers, but we know what the award means to them. They know how they want to keep, who they want to be associated with in those categories, because you don't want to. And that's our reputation. That's their reputation. So we feel that keeps us solid with our inductees, because it's officers that have already won and are already a part of it and live the job every day.
And we do. There's been one judge that's been since the year they won. Year after. So no. Then the other ones we switch every year, because some officers are going to look for different things.
Yep.
And
we have them all do their independent research as well. And then we met them.
Yep.
For those watching, how can people get involved? How can people nominate? How can people find out more information to donate and help the cause?
Well, the nominations are up right now. You just go to our website. There's a nominate button. It says like 250 words, but you can type it over. We do ask that people, if they have CVs and things like that, send those.
It says on there if you have additional things directly, so that we're fine with padding the file however much they want to. We'll send all the info, and the more we have, the better. And the judges. So that's the first part, but it's nationalleohallofame.com. You can get tickets and tables there, nominations, sponsorships, donate. We have a Henry rifle raffle going on. It'll be here.
Have you seen the Leo Henry repeating arms?
It's beautiful.
Go to the website or look it up. It's Henry Repeating Arms 22 LR rifle that's dedicated to law enforcement.
That's
Oh,
cool.
wow.
Oh, it's beautiful. And we've done it a couple times, and we're gonna chip one down. Have it at the event where we do $25 tickets. I mean, we talked to someone the other day, like, what are tickets? $100, $150? Like, no, 25. They're like, what? Like, well, you can buy multiple entries if you'd like to give yourself an extra
It
chance.
sounds silly, but, like coming from Ohio to Texas, there is a difference.
Oh yeah,
We're used to like 25 back home, and people are like,
that's
okay, down here, a little different.
yeah. It's a you asked about the donations. That's donations and the tickets and
Combination.
the nominations. And
Better more.
I'll be honest, like coming down from Toledo to here over doubled our budget just to break even. We know 100% this is the right. I mean, the way we've been welcomed. I mean, just even to the Omni of
Everything down.
everything is just amazing.
And get that.
Yeah.
So, and eventually, yeah, we'd love to have a physical building, but for now, we just want word to spread that we exist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're trying to do what our goal is to do, because every time that I feel like you could probably both could answer this question for us. Do you feel more strongly about our organization after hearing your story and where it started? Now, because if you don't know that, you're like, what is this? Whatever. But the point is, we don't make money.
Yeah.
We're doing this because this is my passion. This is
Yeah.
something we both believe in very strongly and want to help, but also we love doing it
Mhm.
because we get to
Yeah.
talk to people like you, and we get to hear all of those stories. And well, we make our parents proud too. Like, it's both their legacy as well. His dad with the Hall of Fame, mine with being law enforcement. So and like we said, it's a Leo family.
And that's the one thing we've learned a lot over the years is how knit close the Leo industry is. I personally never knew it. And it's just like, oh my God. It's so fun to be able to honor the people that are being honored. But at the same time, just seeing everyone in the room together. Like, because you were both there last year, and that's why we're doing an after party this year, because people were like, well, it's over. It's only 8:30 or 9 p.m. We're like, just held you captive for 3.5, 4 hours, and people are like, oh, it's early now. Like, okay, we'll do some more.
That's what it's about. And the connections that are made from across the country through this Hall of Fame. That's my favorite part. My husband always teases me because he's like, I'll get off the phone and I'm like, I just introduced to someone so. And he was like, you get so excited about that. I'm like, because that's what it means. Like, if someone can help an officer over here with this, let us be the facilitators. But I just feel like having us on and telling our story to you guys, like, that is what people get it. Like, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this if we didn't care.
Oh no.
I understand the skepticism. I really do.
Yeah.
And so nominations that you mentioned, that is for the 2026 ceremony. Tell our viewers and listeners about this year's quickly arriving ceremony and the details on it.
Okay. So like I said, I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but the training will be held from 8 to noon on Friday, April 11th here at the Omni. And it's just a training held by Force Science with Bertrand's bringing a simulator. So that's an addition to last year. We didn't do anything like that. And then the event starts at 5:30. There's registration. We'll have some tables. We're really excited because we're going to have rings for the Hall of Fame members this year.
I didn't know if you were going to bring it up.
I am. But, super pumped about that. It's another offering for, anyone associated with the Hall of Fame that they can get that. There'll be a cocktail hour for an hour, and then we'll move inside and have our presentations. We have Chris Darlington is our music entertainment this year. He is a law enforcement officer and has been performing a lot at Mar-a-Lago and things like that. But I connected through him with LinkedIn, and I love the fact that he is an officer. So that means a lot to me. And then we have Tony Godwin's daughter, Jordan, will be singing the national anthem, and that's even more exciting for us because it's the family of a Hall of Fame that we get to showcase. at the event, but you'll have dinner, which we just did the tasting, and it's going to be great.
Mhm.
And then you'll leave the ceremony and walk right out to a dance floor, some music, a bar, and a special treat. That is this year's event.
And if you haven't heard Jordan Godwin sing, she will blow your socks off.
Oh, yeah.
Tears in my eyes, all of it. And, the anthem's already everything, but when someone can sing it where you feel it, then she can. So I'm very excited that she's willing to do it for us. And again, it's, an inductee's daughter.
She sang it at the opening ceremony of the Crimes Against Children conference, which is usually a quite tame, somber event when you're dealing with crimes against children. And
Mhm.
I don't know how many thousands of people were in there, but when she finished the final note, it sounded like the starting of a NASCAR event, the people cheering and yelling. And I thought, yep, that's what that performance deserved.
Yep. That's what he sent us. And I'm like,
Yeah,
he was like, she's pretty good. And I'm like, no, you're trying to be.
you played it down.
I was like, she's not just pretty good.
Nothing like her dad, but she's okay.
Yeah, she's all right. But I was like, Tony, and he goes, okay, yeah, I know. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
It's so fun to be down here, especially because it's nicer weather than 10 straight days of below freezing and snow since December. I came down here in a t-shirt and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But we just
guys with like
stocking caps on here.
stocking caps.
It's 60 degrees.
And I'm like, I could be in shorts down here, but then you don't realize,
Yep. Well, Clint, did you have anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I appreciate that y'all's end goal too is to add a component to mental health. Mental health's really become a focus, and in the last 20, 30 years, I never dreamed that mental health would be a part or a focus of law enforcement. So I'm thankful to see where you are headed with that as well, because it's much needed.
So what I had started to do with that is back in 2020, when we took our break, I met with some Congress people in Ohio to see if we could, that at that point it was just officer suicide prevention that we wanted to help with, because it's, the leading cause after alcoholism, and it leads into that, and so on and so forth. And I was basically greeted with, here's the suicide hotline, you can share with them, basically. And I'm like, no. Like, we need to do something else. So that's when we talked, and it went into, okay, so we started building this network from behind the scenes for when we can't afford to pay for these things. But the reasoning behind it was, I will never forget that my dad was on a call for 12 hours with a guy that would only speak to him. And he ended up killing himself on the phone with my dad. And that's where my dad went a day, he had the 3 days that, they make you take after incident. And then he's right back on the street. And it took a toll on him.
Yeah.
And then that's what led into him and I having to go to therapy and things like that, and marriage problems. Like, thank goodness my mom's strong. He stuck by him, but that's just one story
Out of one city.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And he has a ton, but when you sit down and think about that, what that could do to someone, we gotta help. That's it. Somehow. I don't know but that's the goal.
Well, we never understood, and one of our past winners told us as well. He was like, the difference between law enforcement officers, and not to go firefighters under the bus or anything, but he said the firefighter witnesses a suicide, they get a week off. Law enforcement officer, they sit there and say, hey, go in your car, take a few minutes, and get back on the street.
It's like what it
And
feels
we're
like.
like, you don't get any time to process
No.
what you just saw or witnessed or anything.
And then you gotta go home and be a dad, a husband, like a brother,
Wife,
son,
anything.
whatever, you know what I mean? And expect to be happy,
Yeah.
but as a child, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand my dad's anger and frustration. So that's where and Adam's sat on a board for mental health for years.
Yeah.
And so that is our driving force behind the Hall of Fame, is to help officers do that.
Cool.
Well, and the firemen just put their footy pajamas back on and go back to bed.
That's what I mean, it's like once You missed your spaghetti night.
We're not going to mess with the winners this year, Dave Swaby. And he has the Guns and Roses Foundation. We're not messing with Mr. Swaby here. I know you guys know him well.
Yep. Well, good. Anything we missed or anything y'all would like to share?
I would just thank you. And if you can come to the event, tickets are on. There's a discounted Leo ticket, and you can sign up for the Force Science training as well as on our website. Donations are huge. I mean, you guys know enough about nonprofits and things like that, like we said, we've never taken a dime. And it takes so much time and effort and money to put an event like this on. Because you guys, in last year, we're not serving cheeseburgers at the local bar. You know, we went all out. And I remember when we came down here, we did, I think it was 3 site visits. We walk into the Omni. I look over at Megan. She's smiling, and I'm like, I know we're coming here, but it's going to be the most expensive one. It's what we want to do.
Officers do not get those fun trips, not, you know what I mean? We want it to be exciting and fun. You can go to the stockyards, you can go to the rooftop pool and enjoy a trip out of it, you know, not just the ceremony, because that's what it's all about.
We've actually had numerous people sit there and say, like, hey, I'm going to take my kids out of school for a few days and turn it into a mini vacation, because, and I'll admit, when we first came down to Fort Worth, we didn't realize how big it was. But we had no idea.
It's a great thing.
I think at one point it was like top 10 in the nation or something like that. We're like, really? But everything is bigger in Texas.
But yeah, please just spread the word.
Yeah.
Let people know we exist and that what we're trying to do. It's important. Like I said, you got the National Football Hall of Fame, all of those. Why don't we have fun?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. What you guys have done, having us on and doing this
is amazing
via Zoom, and your support and attending the event means a lot. So thank you.
Tio, what you got?
Man, I'm just excited for you guys and honored that we were able to do this today. And you know, we're going to be here to support you guys and help however we can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
That about wraps up the episode, guys. April the 11th, Friday, April the 11th, Omni Fort Worth, National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame ceremony that morning is Force Science training, I believe, by Vaughn Clem, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Vaughn is an amazing guy, amazing instructor, super good guy. April 11th, all of our listeners, viewers would love to see you guys support or reach out, be a part of that. Tio, you want to close us out?
Yeah. Man, again, our hearts and prayers, our thoughts and prayers are with the injured Garland officer as of last night. Hope for a speedy recovery to him. You guys take care, stay safe. God bless you. And as always, may God bless Texas. We're out.